All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining His Holiness Chandramauli Swami Maharaj's daily class. Today, Dinanath Prabhu is not available, so I'm just hosting today on his behalf. Hare Krishna Maharaj, my humble obeisances to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for your time and association. And we are continuing with our Srimad Bhagavatam study of second canto, 5th chapter and verse number 20. The chapter's name is the Cause of All Causes. Hare Krishna Maharaj. I'll share my screen again. You can please take over. Yes.
Yeah. So this section of the Bhagavatam is very intricate in philosophical understandings of the nature of the absolute truth and the intricacies of the relationship with the Lord and the living entities in connections with the material energy. I know it may a little be hard to understand some of this, but if you carefully listen and think about what you're hearing, everything will become easier to understand. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Saesha Bhagaval Lingais Tribulata Ahoksa Jaham Swalaksita Gatir Brahmam Sarvishamam Chesvaraha. O Brahmana Narada, the superseer, the transcendent Lord, is beyond the perception of the material senses of the living entity because of the above-mentioned three modes of nature. He is the controller of everyone, including me. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 7:24 and 25, the Lord has declared very clearly that the impersonalists will give more importance to the transcendental rays of the Lord as the Brahma Jyoti and conclude that the absolute truth is ultimately impersonal and only manifests a form at a time of necessity, is less intelligent than the personalists. However much the impersonalists may be engaged in the study of the Vedanta. The fact is that such impersonalists are covered by the above three modes of nature. Therefore, they're unable to approach the transcendent personality of the Lord. The Lord is not approachable by everyone because he is curtained by his yoga might and potency. But one should not wrongly conclude that the Lord was formerly unmanifested and has now become manifested himself in the human form. This misconception of the formlessness of the Supreme Lord is due to the Yogamaya curtain of the Lord and can be removed only by the Supreme Will as soon as the conditioned soul surrenders unto him. The devotees of the Lord who are transcendental to the above-mentioned three modes of material nature can see the all-blissful transcendental form of the Lord within their vision of love in the attitude of pure devotional service. Om Gyan Tiri Mangdasya Gena Jana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Staptitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Datati Swam Padantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Pastyatya De Satarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhischa Vipa Sindhu Pevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samanvritaha muro yoya bhajananti lokavyam avajayaya. And Krishna says, fools deride me when I appear in my transcendental form. They do not know my supreme dominion and all that being. And he also says, Naham prakasha sarvasya. I am covered by my curtain of Maya, and therefore the eternal, the created world knows me not, who are eternal and inexhaustible. So these two verses are clearly mentioned here in reference to those who try to approach the Lord through philosophical or spiritual speculation. One can only approach the Lord by surrendering to the Lord. As the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, only by undivided devotional service can I be known as I am standing before you, and thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. So Krishna is a hoaxaja. He's beyond the reach of the senses. And the senses in this world are attracted by the three modes. And therefore the senses are actually impure. Only when the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, they can again attain their pure nature, because the soul also is sentient and it has transcendental and pure senses. But they're covered by the material senses, which are due to the association of this material energy, which is categorized in three compartments: the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, the mode of ignorance. The mode of ignorance is the lowest. There is no knowledge in the mode of ignorance. It's simply total ignorance and foolishness. In the mode of passion, there's a slight bit of knowledge that comes through, but very little, and not enough to understand the nature of the Lord. In the mode of goodness, one can understand that the Lord is the source of everything, and he is beyond the creative world. And one can approach him only when one comes to the Sudasattva platform, or the platform of pure goodness, which is the process of devotional service. So he remains hidden for those who do not approach him in service. Just like to get to see a very big man in this world, say the president of a country, you have to be somebody special, really, to get that, connection or that meeting with the president. And even then, very few can get that, because he doesn't waste time with people who don't have any importance. He wants to deal with things that are of relevance to his relationship with his duties. And therefore, he doesn't waste time. And therefore, to get darshan or association with a great personality in this world is extremely rare. But what to speak about that personality who is the source of all the great personalities everywhere, eternally ever existing. And so it's not easy to approach the Supreme Lord, because he requires people to have certain characteristics and qualities. We have an eternal relationship with the Lord, so it's not like a relationship with someone in this material world, which we make and break due to the movements of time. Our relationship with the Lord is beyond time, but because of our connection with the three modes of material nature, which moves the living entity to perceive reality in terms of the limited material existence. We perceive the world according to our senses, or our intelligence, or even beyond that, our imagination. But none of these perceptions are qualifications to approach the Supreme Lord, who is beyond all of these definitions of material energies. So but there is a way. And that is what he says here. As soon as the conditioned soul surrenders unto him, then the Lord removes that, what is that curtain of Maya covering. So Maya is like a curtain. When a curtain comes in front of an object, no one can see the object. And although the object is always there, the curtain makes it seem like it's not there by covering it. So Krishna is always with us, but this covering of curtain of this material energy appears in such a way that it blocks our awareness of the Lord and our relationship with the Lord. Therefore, we have to go beyond this curtain and engage in devotional service. So only by devotional service can one begin to remove this coverings of the material energy. Because devotional service is on the Sudasattva platform. It's transcendental. So there's activities in all levels of existence, but spiritual activities do not connect with anything in this world, although they are executed in this world, but they have nothing to do with this world. Just like a king will be sitting on a throne and a bug will be sitting on the king. So you might say the bug is very close to the king, but really the bug and the king have no relationship with each other at all. And similarly, we are connected to this world in different ways, but in essence, we have no relationship with this world because we are not of this world. We are of the spiritual nature, the eternal world, that nature that is above the material existence. So coming back or developing our relationship with Krishna means coming back to who we actually are. So we have to understand that we are in what we say, an inordinate position. Why? It's simply because we somehow are left our true relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world, and we are here. Krishna is so kind that those who want to leave him, he facilitates a place where they can act out their desires to be independent from him. And so he even creates all of the necessities for the living entity to live in this world, although the living entity has left him, wants to forget about him, has rejected him. Still, the Lord doesn't reject or forget the living entities. As a loving father, he never gives up his relationship of current concern and love for his living entities. Therefore, he arranges this material world in such a way that everything we need to live is here. But there's only one thing missing, and that is the happiness we're looking for, because that is not part of his arrangement for this material world. The happiness can be found only in relationship to him, when we connect with him back in service. Service is something that we have to understand as intrinsic or innate within the characteristic of the living being. Every living being has a tendency to serve. Even you'll see the animals. The mother cow will serve the calf. The mother tiger will serve the, the baby cubs. So, Prabhupada talks about how one time he was in his room, and there's like these bars that were around the outside of the room, and somehow some tiny monkey slipped through the bars and was in his room. And the mother, she saw that her little child was now away from her in this room, and she could not get to him because the bars were so big. Only the child was able to slip through it. So Prabhupada's describing this. The mother was mad. She was jumping up and down and making all kinds of noise. because she really wanted her cub, her baby monkey back. So Prabhupada said, I went over there and I pushed the monkey through the bars, and then the mother regained her little kitty again, you might say. And then she was happy. So you see that loving relationship is there even when the lower living entities. And what is that relationship? It's based on service. The mother serves, the child receives. When the child grows up, the child also serves in different ways. And so in this element of seva or service is part of the living entity's existence. It may manifest in this material world to service to country, service to society, service to family members, service to friends, service to various categories of living entities for the sake of achieving something through these services. So we cannot give up the mood of service. It's not possible. And Prabhupada would even extend and explain the definition that even one who has no one to serve, say some person who is somewhat a recluse, someone who is by himself, they keep a cat or a dog or some kind of pet so they can do some service, some connection with this lower living entity. So everyone has this tendency for service. It cannot be removed. It can only be purified. Purified means to redirect that service now to the source of all existence, to the source of our own existence, and that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when that's directed back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as it develops and it matures, then it becomes the source of happiness and longevity of existence for the living entity. And so this principle of service, it becomes perfect in relationship to the source of all existence, Supreme Personality of Godhead, particularly Krishna or Rama, Lord Nrsingadev, Lord Vamanadev, the various personal incarnations of the Lord. So all of these activities that we perform in relationship to the Lord is based on reuniting or connecting. Through service, we connect. Through failing to serve, we remain disconnected. Of course, we are told to chant the holy name of the Lord, that is service. To read the Srimad Bhagavatam, that is service. To worship the deity in the temple or establish that deity worship in our home, that is also service. But we also have energy. We also have abilities. We also have time. So if we don't use our time to serve the Lord, we will use those same qualities, those same abilities to perform some service in this material world. And that will slow down and sometimes even cause our devotional service to stop. So therefore, it says in the Shastras, I forgot the actual Sanskrit, but it says Vacha, Buddhi, Aishwarya, and one more. What is the word for life? Life. Existence. Huh?
Prana?
Prana. Yeah, thank you. Prana. Prana, Archa, Buddhi, like that, Aishwarya. So we have four things. We can give our life to Krishna. We can give our intelligence to Krishna. We give our words to Krishna. We can give our resources to Krishna in service. And by doing that, then all of these things that we possess become purified and spiritualized. And when they're spiritualized, they lose their connection with the dualities of material existence, which causes those same objects or activities to bring about some kind of distress in our life. It's like that. So to overcome this distress, we can come back to our real characteristic of server, which is to serve and love the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Lord makes it easy, but we have to, as the Rupa Goswami that says there are certain qualifications one has to adopt. And he mentions that in the Nectar of Instructions, that one has to be enthusiastic to serve the Lord. That means one has to use their intelligence to serve the Lord. One has to be determined, despite whatever situation one is in, to serve the Lord no matter what. One has to be patient, knowing that when the Lord wants, he will bestow his mercy, even though I'm engaged in service. And one has to associate with and serve others who are also performing devotional service. The Rupa Goswami gives us the formula, and he also teaches us what to avoid. Avoiding talks that are not related to devotional service. Unless one is in Grihastha life, then they may also speak about how to maintain the Griha. But that is a concession in order to maintain family life. Beyond that, one should restrict speech to what is relevant for one's Krishna consciousness. One should not collect more material things than necessary. One should not eat more than what is necessary. These are things or activities that take away from our relationship with Krishna or make our relationship with Krishna very difficult to develop. One should perform the activities of devotional service with the understanding of what is the purpose behind that, and not simply perform it in a mechanical way, not knowing what is the performance. Or one should not simply adjust the rules and regulations and act independently or whimsically. And one should very carefully avoid the association of people who are adverse to spiritual life. In other words, the atheists, the demons, like that, the non-devotees, the hardcore materialists. And also one should control the mind and senses very carefully and direct the mind and senses by the intelligence that is purified by Shastra, by Guru, in devotion to Krishna. So these are all Rupa Goswami. These are mentioned in 2 verses in the Nectar of Instructions, things to do and things to avoid. So many times we find that devotees are very clear on what to do, but they're not so clear on what to avoid. And that is important in order to maximize the benefit that we can receive from our performings of things that are beneficial. If we're performing things that are material or not in line with devotional service or offenses, then that will water down and may even stop one's progress in devotional service. So one has to be very clear what to avoid. We study these 2 verses. That's verse number 2 and verse number 3 in Nectar of Instructions. I think we gave a seminar in Nectar of Instructions just recently, last year in Detroit. And we spent 3 or 4 days discussing the verses. And I think the devotees were very enthusiastic to learn and to respond to the teachings. And it was a very, as from my perspective, it was a very successful presentation and reciprocation. So we're doing that again. I'm teaching Nectar of Instructions in Mayapur from the 20th of January to the 31st of January, 10 days. The weekends, we don't perform activities. So that is available for those who want to, because this nectar of instruction is the essence of the essence. It kind of like it brings everything down to the PowerPoint level of presentation in terms of what is essential in our devotional service and what we should very carefully avoid. Yeah. So that's a very important. And that's Rupa Goswami. He is the basis of our teachings of the execution of bhakti, like that. Okay. So we can see if there's any discussion.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much. Nice class about the position of the Lord and also about the service mainly, how to do and how to offer the services. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Sridevi Mataji, please go ahead. And dear devotees, please turn on your cameras if possible and raise your hands if you have any questions or unmute and ask. Thank you. Yes, Mataji, Sridevi.
Thank you, Srimati. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my most humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. In this particular purport, Guru Maharaj, these few lines I'm just needing little clarification on, because we have heard, and you've also said that to us before, that the impersonalists can go all the way up to Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, that level, but they cannot get bhakti, of course. But here it is said that the impersonalists are covered by the above mentioned three modes of material nature, and therefore they are unable to approach the transcendental personality of the Lord. But we know that they can reach the Brahma Jyoti level and they can reach the Brahma Bhuta platform. So I'm just trying to understand how we are saying here that it is, they're covered over.
Well, if you know what they practice and what they teach, they're teaching something that ultimately is material. One of the reasons is there is no service. Aruna Krichena Padam Padam Padanti Yadam. Therefore, even if they attain, this is spoken by Lord Brahma in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, even if they attain some high level of spirituality, in other words, merging into the Brahma Jyoti or merging into the bodily effulgence of the Lord, Padanti Yada means they fall down again because there's no service. Unless you're engaged in service, there's that connection will run out due to the exhaustion of your spiritual credits. You get spiritual credits, they do, by austerities, penance, and studying certain parts of the Vedas, and performing various types of charity, chanting mantras, worshiping in different ways. So they elevate themselves and distancing themselves from all material activities. But they're basically quite, if you meet impersonalists, they're never happy. They're always miserable. Not miserable, but you don't see them. You can tell that they're not happy. Why? Because they center their life around austerities. Austerities can make one hard-hearted. But austerities that are meant to please the Lord and to purify the soul actually become a source of joy. But they perform austerities in order to attain some spiritual position, free from material suffering. So their motivations are personal. And Prabhupada would explain that. Karmis, the Gyanis, the Yogis, they all have desire, material desire. Only the Bhakti Yogis are free from material desire. As long as you have a personal desire, that's material. But if you have a desire to purify your heart and awaken your love for Krishna, that's not material. That's spiritual.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Maharaj, I just want to follow up in the last line you said, like the desires should not be material. It should be spiritual or in service to the Lord to get purified, right, Maharaj? Then only will be purified. The desires will be.
Material desires have a reaction.
Um,
Spiritual desires have no reaction. Material desires bring three different types of reaction: acceptable, unacceptable, and mixed. Or sometimes we say good, bad, and mixed.
mm,
But spiritual desires are connected to the process of bhakti. Therefore, they are called akarma. Bhagavad Gita explains there's akarma, vikarma, and karma. Karma means pious activities. Vikarma means impious activities. Akarma means devotional service. That means there's no karma. One simply gains knowledge and a knowledge of their relationship with the Lord, and one gains freedom from the entanglement of material existence. That is devotional activities. Material activities just lock you back into the material activities or material existence. Even the mode of goodness is binding because it's still within the material energy.
mm. Yes, Maharaj. Devotees, any
You
questions?
just have to perform activities that are recommended by the spiritual master, by the Shastras,
Mm.
by Krishna himself.
Thank you, Maharaj. Sakshi Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Maharaj, my question is, how do we overcome the cheating propensities of the mind pertaining to spiritual life?
Don't cheat. If you know it's cheating, don't do it. If you don't know it's cheating and you do it, then you'll see by the results that, because when you try to cheat, you cheat yourself, actually. You don't gain what you're trying to gain through the cheating propensity. The cheating propensity is described in different ways. Presenting oneself as something other than one's actual self, or thinking one is more advanced than they actually are. These are also ideas of cheating, like that. So a devotee can counteract the tendency to think and act in a cheating way by always remaining in the mood of service with humility. No, in other words, never be, even if we do nice service, we shouldn't become proud because of that. We should think it's only by the mercy of the Lord that I was able to do anything. And that is not some imposition on the mind that we're doing just to come up with some idea. It's actually a fact. The living entity is always overcome by ignorance as long as they remain in the material world. And so, therefore, by the mercy of the Lord, one can transcend the inebrities and the difficulties of being in the material world only by his mercy. So one has to pray for, and one has to strive to attain that mercy. And that mercy is available when one carefully follows the instructions given in the execution of devotional service.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Sridevi Mataji, you want to ask?
Yeah, I just want some clarification on this, Guru Maharaj. See, we say mode of passion gives rise to creativity, and that is true in the sense that I do have an artistic side to me that delights actually in directing dramas and dances with the children. I used to love to bake for the deities. I used to love to sew for the deities. And all of these things I miss at some level. So if I try to do all these things, would that be again going into mode of passion?
No, if it's done in devotional service, it's transcendental to all the modes. It has characteristics of the mode of passion, but it's transcendental.
Yeah, because I cannot just see myself, sitting over a book and reading all the time. I need to do something creative.
Well, that's what we want everyone to do. Stop, stop making the chair get up and do something. Stay active. If you want to be happy, stay active in devotional service.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
I think you get more opportunities in Mayapur than in anywhere else, Mataji.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it now.
Great. Ekta Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to all of the devotees.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Maharaj. You were talking about the modes, and we hear often that we need to rise to the mode of goodness and use that as a springboard to then get to the platform of pure goodness. And we should evaluate different areas of our life to try and make sure we're in the mode of goodness. But are there any particular areas that you would suggest we reflect on that would have maximum impact if we were to focus on shifting things in those areas to the mode of goodness?
Well, what are the outstanding qualities of the mode of goodness? That's mentioned. One of the more difficult qualities that we find that is really essential for developing spiritual knowledge is learning how not to be disturbed by happiness and distress. This is called dhira. Dhira means sober. Sober means undisturbed in situations that may cause either happiness and distress. Turn to the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, verse number 20. This is an interesting verse. I haven't explored this verse recently. 5:20. Yeah, it's really a nice verse. And it really answers your question. Na parisya priyam praptya no duja prapracha priyam stirabhuvira samudo brahmavit brahmavastira. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant. So there's the dhira right there. Sober. Doesn't rejoice about receiving something pleasant, nor laments about the opposite. And then the verse goes on, it says, who is self-intelligent, unbewildered, who knows the science of God, that person is situated in transcendence. That's above the three modes. That is actually Sudasattva. But here, one of the characteristics to achieve higher consciousness, and also even up to the mode of goodness, is not to be elated in happiness, or what we say, morose and something unpleasant. Because the devotee understands this is the way the world works. Sometimes things come nice and sometimes things don't. One should find happiness on the spiritual platform and not simply go back and forth through the material waves of ups and downs, which bring certain elations and certain, depressions. So learning how to remain sober, neutral, that is, I think if you go back to the word for word, you can see it a little clearer. Where does it say? Udajit does not become agitated. What's the word? Never really pleasant achieving does not become. Is not bewildered. Stay steady in their devotional activities, and happiness comes because the materialist, when they get something, they celebrate, and when they get something else, they go down in a very depressed attitude. Devotees should transcend that particular mode by always remaining fixed in Krishna consciousness. That's how you can do it. Or fixed in the mode of goodness, seeing that happiness comes, distress comes. Prabhupada tells a little story where one king, this is a what do they call it? When there's a story that I want to give you a message. What is it called? A story with a message. What's that word?
Parable?
No. Something that is instructive.
Moral?
But may not be actually a fact, Can't think of the word. Fable? No. Anyway, it's an English word. But here's the story. And there's one king. He had everything a king could possibly desire and more. Success on all levels. And so he had a large group of ministers. It's called an antidote. An antidote. That's it. And he said to one of his ministers, he said, I want something that will, when I feel happy, it'll make me unhappy. And when I feel unhappy, it will make me happy. I want one thing that can do that, make me change my happiness into unhappiness and vice versa. So the ministers were really bewildered. But there was one minister who was quite intelligent. He said, just give me one day, king, and I'll have something for you tomorrow. So the next day the minister returned, met the king, and he gave him a ring. And on the ring, there was an inscription on the ring. He said, when you feel happy, then read the ring and it'll make you unhappy. And when you feel unhappy, you read the ring, it'll make you happy. So, what were the 4 words? This soon will end. So don't get caught up in the moment. Stay fixed in something that is above the dualities of change, that is Krishna, or devotional service, the spiritual platform. And then happiness comes, distress comes, still we stay fixed at our devotional service. That quality of dhira is very fundamental to remaining, to coming to the spiritual platform. Right, Sri Devi? You're expert at dhira, right?
That's the joke of 2025. You're cracking it 2 days too early.
You have your own definition of dhira.
My definition of dhira is just hanging on to your lotus feet with all my might, Guru Maharaj. That's my only hope.
Well, I don't know, but anyway, if you say so. So, Ekta, this is what I chose out of all the qualities of the mode of goodness, undisturbed by happiness and distress.
Thank you, Maharaj. And is it because we associate with the material energy that we get affected by happiness and distress so much?
Exactly. But if we can learn that these waves of material energy are always changing, just like the story with the king. Life is like that. You go through these different ups and downs, but stay fixed on a higher platform. And that way, these lower platforms of ups and downs will just come and go. They'll come and they'll go. You might have to deal with them in order to make some adjustment, but still, that adjustment or that dealing with them doesn't cause you to become disturbed by them or overly elated by them either. That's just the way of the world. But devotees are not meant to be worldly. They're meant to be above worldly activities. Okay, that's the one I chose. There's many other qualities of the mode of goodness that you might also find interesting and helpful.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj. There is a question on chat by Vrishabh Prabhu. Basically, he's asking for clarification. Maharaj, in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 13 chapter, it is said we should be detached from bodily activities. These bodily activities are different from devotional activities because for devotional activities we use the body, but we don't identify with it.
Yeah, that's true. So is there a question attached to that or just a comment?
Yeah, just a comment or clarification.
Yeah, that's a nice point. To use the body, but not to be disturbed or identify with the body as, the individual. The soul is using the body for the activities of devotional service. But the conditioned soul thinks I am this body, and whatever happens to the body or the mind happens to me. But it doesn't. It happens to the body, not you. But if you think it's happening to you, then you are identifying with something that is not real. So therefore, tolerance and staying fixed in spiritual consciousness can help one to go beyond the body, even when the body. Turn to the 6th chapter in Bhagavad Gita, verse number 20. Yeah. Actually, there's 3 verses together, or 4 verses together. Verses 20 to 23, I think it's interesting. Somebody read the translation, go right to the translation because it's a long translation. Yeah.
In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact.
Okay. Trance of yoga, absorption in the supreme. And these are the qualities and characteristics that ensue or manifest in that consciousness. Even in the midst of the greatest difficulty, one is never disturbed. So this is important because we have to leave this body at one point. So life means to practice devotional activities so we can come to the platform of being fixed in spiritual consciousness. Then when it's time to give up the body, it's just like just going out in one room and leaving one room and entering into another room. It becomes very natural. But the attachment to the body and the extensions of the body causes one to suffer at the time of death. And one also, if they're actually thinking they are this body, the pains and pleasures that may come at the time of death will also be identified as happening to me, and then one will suffer, and one cannot think of anything more than how to get out of that suffering. So yeah, it's about raising our consciousness from above the 3 modes of material nature. That's all.
Thank you so much.
Bala, you got something today for us?
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Can I go?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you, all glories to Vaishnavas everywhere, of course. Maharaj, this is a weird, bad question that I have, but I had to get it out of my head, or at least wrong. So I've been having desires all my life, right? At one time, I was a young, strong person, never really strong, but young and everything. And now I am pushing 60, and clearly I don't have to notice. My body tells me it has diminished. The body has diminished. But if I take the desires that I had at 10, 15, 20, 18, 25, 35, 45, the desires are strong, and they are about as strong as ever. So is this a clue that if the body is gone, the desires shall remain and therefore come with us, and I have to deal with them now?
I'll tell you a story, which will give you the answer. It was Birbal and Akbar. You know the stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Akbar, he's thinking, and Birbal's there, and he starts to talk about what he's thinking. He's saying, I can understand. I believe that at the fag end of life, one no longer has any of these desires for enjoyment in the material world. Birbal said, no, it's not true. They end up all the way to the very last moment. Akbar was a little aghast by the statement. So Birbal said, let's make an experiment. So he said, you have a very dedicated, loyal subject. He's one of your most loyal subjects, and he's on his deathbed. Let's go to see him. But when we come, bring your young daughter, he said to Akbar, bring your young daughter with you. So, and then they were coming, and then Birbal said, when you enter into the room, watch the eyes of the man.
Mhm.
Now, here's a dedicated, loyal person who really has a lot of affection and attraction and loyalty to Akbar. So he comes in, and immediately the eyes go to the girl, not to the king. And then Akbar got the understanding that these desires don't go away by time.
Yeah.
Desires only go away by purifying those desires and changing them into spiritual desires.
Yeah. Amazing, Maharaj. So true.
Yeah, so and it's a fact, you know. People will be dying and they're still making plans by giving instructions to their families on how things should go on. They're not going to be around, but still they're making plans. Oh, you know, make sure that this boy does this and I'll leave some money, you know, so they're still managing the family and they're about ready to leave the world, you know. So it's like that. That's the material life is like that.
Yes.
So our program is to die before you die. Die to those things that cause you to die. And that means for death, there's no such thing as death for a devotee because the devotee lives eternally. The conditioned souls cannot realize that, and therefore they accept death as a reality.
Yeah.
And even if you tell them there's life after death, they're more attuned to what's happening on the material level than whatever philosophy you gave them. Although they might theoretically agree with you, still they can't understand. But devotees can actually accept the fact that, yes, I'm leaving the world. Now I want to go back to Krishna. I want to go to a situation where I can serve Krishna again in my next life. They're not worried about leaving things behind, but we remain attached to the things of this world unless we during our lifetime, we learn to detach ourselves from these things. So life really means preparation for death.
Mm-hmm.
Life means to prepare for death and not to accumulate more things that'll make death impossible to accept. So, there's a nice book by Bhakti Tirtha Swami called Die Before You're Dying, Beggar Number 4. He goes through the whole thing. He's dying. He's got melanoma or cancer, and he's also expressing his realizations on detaching himself from everything around, putting himself in the position of a materialist to show how one becomes entangled and also how one becomes disentangled and ultimately can leave the world without any difficulty. It says that one who has attained pure devotion to Krishna and leaves the world, it's like going to sleep and waking up. It's like that. There's no pain. But for the materialist, there's a lot of pain. Mental pain is stronger than physical pain.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Maharaj, is it also then true that the nature of these retained desires, this is something actually they talk about in South India growing up, is the nature of these retained desires, unfulfilled desires that, and I guess gunas that determine your next birth if you're not.
Yeah, they carry with you.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever is unfulfilled material in this life will be the cause of your birth in the next life. And you'll have to, again, face the same things. You'll have the same attachments. And they'll manifest as you grow up in your next life.
Yeah. And also, just to reiterate, we all know this, and the way to get rid of them or to manage them is through devotional service. Surrender to Krishna.
Yeah, then change material desires into spiritual desires.
Perfect.
That's all.
Yeah, which you earlier said is not desire. Spiritual desire is not desire. Yeah.
Here, the spiritual desire is desire, but it's the desire that's beneficial.
Beneficial. Yeah, there's no negative effects of that desire. Yes, it's all positive.
There's a class of spiritualists who say we have to become desireless, but that's not possible.
Correct.
A stone is desireless. A living being,
Yes.
a living being has desire.
Yeah, so yeah, Prabhupada beats on this everywhere. He says, yeah, in fact, that is his main argument against the Shunyavadis. And yeah.
Yeah. So desire Krishna, desire spiritual life, desire purification of heart, desire to perform the activities of devotion. These desires are what we say will elevate our consciousness to a platform of happiness and knowledge. You can't be free from desires.
Wonderful, Maharaj. Thank you.
Thank you for injecting us with some important understanding of life.
No, Maharaj. It's all your mercy, Maharaj. I have nothing.
Thank you, Balakrishna Prabhuji. Thank you. We have a question on chat by Narsinga Leela Mataji. She's asking, Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, in the connection to answer to Ekta Mataji's question, sometimes we may be disturbed or frustrated by not having sadhana that we are striving for, and that frustration is almost unbearable. Could you please shed some light on this matter? Thank you.
We're feeling frustration and unhappy because we're not able to take enough time to perform sadhana.
Yeah, whatever our goal is, we are not able to reach that.
Well, that's transcendental. If you're in anxiety about how you are not up to the standard and want to be up to the standard, want to increase devotional service, I want to please Krishna, but I'm not able to do it. This is called transcendental anxiety. It is spiritual, and it's rarely found. Only those who are on a higher platform experience transcendental anxiety. And that brings you closer to Krishna and purifies your heart. Material anxiety works the other way, drags you down towards material energy. I want to serve more. I want to do better. I want to please Krishna. I want to take more time and practice those activities which will connect me more with the happiness of devotional service. I want to chat. I want to dance. I want to hear and discuss philosophical teachings. I want to go to the temple and meet devotees and share Krishna consciousness together. I want to go to GEV on the retreat and get organized by Hector's great organization so I can have an spiritual experience and come home and be happy and never forget it. These are things that we should be in anxiety over. So transcendental anxiety is, or that anxiety which is directed towards devotion is recommended. I mean, I was once preaching in Poland. I went to a place that I had never gone before in Poland. It was in the northeastern section of Poland. I forgot the name of the city. It was a big city. And there was more than 150 people came to the program. And I didn't know anybody. And so I'm giving my class. They're also translating my class into Polish as I'm speaking. And at the end of the class, we asked for questions. Well, immediately, one man jumped up and he started talking really fast and really emotional. It was really overwhelming. I almost understood what he said, even though he spoke in Polish, because the intention of what he was speaking was so strong that I could almost feel what he was saying. And then finally, after they translated it, he was saying, I'm 45 years old. And now I understood I wasted my whole life. Why didn't I come to this spiritual Krishna consciousness before? And he was just lamenting his previous life. After coming in contact with devotees in the process, now he realized, what a fool I was. Why didn't I do this earlier? Why did I waste my life? He was so emotional. And I was really enjoying it in the sense that here was a man making a declaration that was affecting everybody. Yeah. And then he wasn't done. When I walked outside, he approached me again. I had to keep telling him, I said, okay, just, calm down. It's not too late. You can start where you are and you can still become perfect. Just, forget the past, focus on the present. And still, he didn't get it completely. He was still lamenting how much he wasted his life. So that's transcendental anxiety.
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah. I also feel sometimes the same. I came late into Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah. Krishna consciousness has a taste, and as that taste develops, we want more and more of it.
That's true. Yes, Maharaj. Thank you. Dear devotees, any more questions or comments? Ekta Mataji, please go.
I don't have a question, but since Gurmaraj, you mentioned GU retreat, I wondered if we could do a plug for the France retreat and encourage the devotees to come.
Yeah, plug away.
Marge, I think you should say something that will encourage the devotees to come.
Well, during the last part of the retreat and after, His Holiness Radhanath Swami asked me how the devotees like GV. He wanted to hear. He said it to me at least 3 or 4 times. I said, well, we're working on compiling, appreciations that our devotees had. And you sent me part 1, which was a portion of the devotees. So I sent it to him just the same day you sent it to me. But there's more to come. So he was so eager to hear how much the devotees liked their experience or what was their experience. He was more interested in what was their experience at GEV. He wanted to hear. And, when he asked me 3 or 4 times, and I kept saying, well, just now coming, because Hector's on vacation, He's well, he was patient, but he was eager. And so, that's just to show that, he was really, he wanted to see or hear, the experiences that the devotees had. I was there for 5 weeks straight, from November 20th to December 24th, practically 5 weeks. And when I left there, I thought, what am I doing? I want to go back. But obviously, I had my responsibilities and commitments that I had made for traveling in certain places. So that became foremost. But still, in my mind, I thought, the experiences I had there were the best I can remember. This year, especially for me, was just really, really powerful. And Hector, you can write a little bit about, how to explain and to illustrate what devotees can experience when they go there. Write something based on your own experience and based on evaluating others' experience. Put together a little, not little, but maybe a long letter.
Yes, Garaj.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You won't believe the place. You can't, we can't really put it into words in terms of its spiritual qualities. Not possible. It's an experience being there. It's
Yes,
unique in ISKCON. And those of you who are there this year, when you come next year, it's like coming to another place. It's developing so much on every level that the development is going on continuously. You'll see a grand, beautiful temple, which should be coming up in a few months, plus other programs and facilities. They also have this, they call it the Skill Center. Did you hear about the Skill Center? Where they're going to teach people from the villages who don't have much education or abilities, various types of activities and trades where they can actually develop, in different areas of life, so they can develop some meaning in their life. And also, we're not asking them to become devotees, but they will become devotees because the devotees will be the force that will give them all of this education. They don't have any money. They don't have any, what we say, arrangements to develop themselves. They're just villagers. So that skill center is that's one aspect of the skill center. The other part is a grand hospital and other things. It's turning into the whole social and economic environment that actually fuels spirituality. It's an amazing place. And what makes it amazing is the devotees who stay there and serve there. That's the key. These devotees will do anything to serve. We were going into the restaurant at night and changing the menu around so we could have what we wanted. and the restaurant workers were of course, we are your servant. Yeah. So I was getting, my favors by someone else's arrangement, of course. So that's just an example of how much they're eager to please the devotees. They didn't say, well, this is our menu and therefore you have to, no. They were willing to cater to certain interests if we made, proposals that would allow them to develop those preparations that devotees wanted. It was like that. That's just an example to show how service-minded people were there. And they weren't complaining about it either. They were very humble and eager to satisfy the devotees.
Yes, Maharaj. I'm still relishing last year's experience. So it's a wonderful place, as you said, and we can't never forget in our life. We always want to go back there. Yeah,
Yeah, well, our plan is again to perform the retreat again next year in November.
sure, Maharaj.
So think about it and make your plans, especially for those who live in India. It's easy for them to get there.
Yeah. Ekta wants to announce about France retreat, Maharaj.
Yeah,
Yeah, please go ahead, Ekta.
Yeah, so we don't have to wait a full year for the next retreat. We have an upcoming retreat, our annual Disciples Retreat in April, and we are going to be hosting it in New Mayapur in France. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. I haven't been. I know, Guru Maharaj, you've been, and some of the devotees have, but it's a wonderful place. It's also another place like GB where the devotees there will do anything to serve the guests and the devotees that come. So just to encourage everybody, please take out some time. This retreat is very dear to Guru Maharaj, and he really wants all of the disciples to come. So please try to make arrangements to come. If you have any questions, then please feel free to reach out to us on the WhatsApp group. Our contact details are there. All the information has been shared. But if you need it again, then please do reach out. Hare Krishna.
and we have this year we're going to be speaking on Manashiksha, Raghunath Das Goswami's deep philosophical treatise in the process of pure devotional service. So, and Bhuta Bhavana will be there. And of course, there will be everything else, kirtan, prasadam, and there's cows. There's outdoor activities also there. So this is from the 9th to the 13th of April. Mhm.
Yeah. We already booked tickets, Guru Maharaj.
Nice. Don't let Maya change your mind.
Yes, definitely. I'm praying.
I always say this, and it's a fact that when you make some plan to really accelerate your spiritual life, Maya will jump in and give you reasons why you shouldn't. That's her job, just to make it hard for you to accept what you're doing. But when you say no to Maya, then what happens is that experience that you get is even better. It's just Maya's job just to test us to see how determined we are in our spiritual life. She tests you. And sometimes it seems like the tests are hard to pass or maybe even impossible to pass. But that's just a perception that is not correct. You can always pass the test, but sometimes you have to reach back and really focus your consciousness. Yes, this is what I'm going to do, no matter what.
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sri Devi has something.
Yeah, I just wanted to add and encourage my god brothers and god sisters that this retreat is like, it's so unbelievably out of this world that I cannot dream of missing it. To me, it's not an option. I cannot imagine not going for a retreat. So I don't know how people even think like, should I go? Should I not go? We are missing out on such a big deal if we don't go. Guru Maharaj is in the transcendental world. He has nothing to do with this material world. It is for us. So if we don't go, we are the ones missing out. Nothing, changes. It's not like Guru Maharaj is doing us a favor or something. We must understand how much Guru Maharaj is doing and take the opportunity to advance in our spiritual lives at every chance we get. I know I sound like a school mom and I don't care because I want you to understand how important it is. So maybe you don't like my speech, maybe you don't like my tone, And maybe you don't like what I said, but I'm still saying it. Haribol.
We like it, but some devotees might think it's nice, but she's demanding it. But if you hear about it, you can also read. You go online and go to their website, you can get a greater insight about the place. But the experience comes when you associate with the devotees and the project. That's where the experience comes. Because the devotees are really amazing there. Really amazing.
Maharaj, thank you so much. Thank you,
Shruti
Shikha.
Bhakti is asking, is it restricted only for disciples?
No, but anyone who applies has to apply through the process there, and it's open to everyone. The only limitations that it may have is that how many people come will determine how much. We'll have to see how many rooms are available. But from my understanding, they are increasing the guest facilities. So I think it's going to be easier and easier to bring more and more people at one time there. Right now, the place is filled up right now because the yogis come end of December, January, and February. The yogis come from Europe. They come from America, especially. These are all yoga groups, and they spend a month there or more. And they do their yoga, and they also learn about Krishna consciousness. And they come in large numbers too. So, Radhanath Swami just did initiations on the 28th, 2 days ago. What? No, on the 27th, 2 days ago. He initiated 340 people. And he was scheduled to do a second batch of the same number yesterday. But there was some postponement because of certain reasons. So people are lining up to get initiated also. Can you imagine? I don't know. I mean, from the perspective of a spiritual master, initiating 340 people in one day. One time I saw him he did 2,000 initiates over a period of 10 days, doing 200 a day each day. Just to think of the names. So Maharaj is attracting the whole world by his pure devotion. And GV is his service to Srila Prabhupada. We have to understand we are in the midst of a very, very great soul. He's not an ordinary person. I've known him for 50 years, and I'm still amazed and wonder about his spiritual power. It's just incredible. And so by his desire to please Srila Prabhupada, by making a community that was self-sufficient, ecologically sound, and spiritually adopting the mood of Vrindavan, he actually is his brainchild, this Govardhan Eco Village.
Maharaj. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing about GEV and about the retreat. Thank you so much. Dear devotees, any more last minute questions or comments? Maharaj,
Okay,
yeah.
so we can stop here, and I do have to go because there's something coming up.
Sure.
So we'll see you all. Tomorrow is Tuesday.
Yes,
I
Maharaj.
think we had made a plan to interject one day a week with Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Yes, Maharaj.
And I think we plan to begin tomorrow, right?
I think I was thinking like we are planning next week, Maharaj, from January.
Oh, okay. Then we'll continue with
Srimad Bhagavatam.
with the Bhagavatam then. Okay.
Thank you so much, dear devotees. Thank you, Maharaj, for such a wonderful class and nice discussion. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. See you all tomorrow again. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And
Can we
Thank you very much
continue
for
the
this
class
class.
with chanting if
Hare
you don't
Krishna.
mind, Srimati?
yes, Mataji.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. Thank
Yeah.
you, Guru Maharaj. Hare
Thank you so much,
Krishna.
Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Prabhupada.
Jai.
Humble
Maharaj
obeisance,
ki jai. Thank you so
humble
much.
obeisances to Guru Maharaj.
Hari
Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for a wonderful class arrangement. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Please, can you share the detail for the retreat?
Yeah, Ekta messaged in the group chat to write an email to CMS retreat. Where it is? cmsretreat@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you so much.